But I want to tell you about an adventure I started on about 9 years ago, and what I think is the best way you can have reform in our country, which is at the physician level, not at the government level. So about 9 years ago, I started a practice in Apex. I actually started it on April Fool's Day, so today is our anniversary. And I did that for a reason. And why did I open on April Fool's Day? Because all of my physician colleagues said, you're crazy to do what you plan on doing. Which was, I said, you know what, I think I'm seeing that the uninsured people can't afford to pay for health care a lot of times, and you know, the doctors are having to see way too many patients and not have enough time with their patients. Let's fix that. So I basically wanted to open a practice where I could see a patient about every 45 minutes, where I could charge the patients between 50 and 80% less, and where I could really provide the best quality of care possible. So I did some research. I was being trained at Wake Forest to see about 32 to 35 patients a day, and I really didn't want to do that. So I started out with a hypothesis, which was this. My theory was, if I go out into practice and I see half as many patients, I'll be totally happy with half as much income. That'll be okay with me. If I can cut their prices and I can see maybe 90 to 95% uninsured and provide them a place to go. Because one of the things I saw when I was in Winston-Salem was that when an uninsured patient came into the office, they didn't just get charged the rate that the insured patient did. They got charged about 20% more. Because insurance contracts say in them, if you see somebody who doesn't have insurance, you can't give them the same discount you're giving a Blue Cross patient. So you have to charge the uninsured patient more. And it was very frustrating for me because I saw the uninsured patients would get a $300 bill, and the people that had any kind of insurance might only get a $200 bill, and they only had a $10 copay, but the bill was smaller just because they had insurance. And I didn't like that they didn't get a discount. So wanting to fix that, I basically set out, again, with a hypothesis that I'll charge less, see less patients. And you guys are thinking, well, how's that math going to work? How's that going to work out for you? And I was okay with making half salary. That would have been all right. But what I figured out, what I discovered as I was doing some research over about 18 months at Wake Forest was that the average practice spends about $250,000 a year per physician just on administrative stuff. Just getting the bills done, just getting the coding and the insurance paperwork and all the paperwork done. So my theory was, here's what I'll do. I'll get rid of all that. You know, these guys have talked about the physician-patient relationship, and I'm there living it. So I'm going to tell you that when I was at Wake Forest, I felt like there was a third person in the exam room with me. And that third person was either an insurance bureaucrat or it was a government bureaucrat. And that person was standing there in the room as a ghost with me and the patient telling me what I could and couldn't do. And so what I basically decided is, let's get them the heck out of the room. It's the doctor-patient relationship. It's not the doctor-patient insurance-government relationship. So I went out, I set out, and I said, I'm not going to sign any insurance contracts when I finish residency. I'm going to get out. I'm not going to take any insurance. When a patient goes to see if I'm in their provider manual, they won't find me there, because I won't sign any insurance contracts that I don't feel are ethical. And I couldn't find any I felt like were ethical at the time. So I opened up the practice, and I lowered the prices. I sort of subtracted out what I thought the overhead rate would be, and I started charging $40 for all visits. $40 if you were there for 5 minutes, $40 if you were there for an hour, $40 if you got a complete physical, $40 if you just needed to come and talk about something for an hour and a half. It was $40. And that was based on a lot of research. Now, since then, it's been 9 years. We've gone up $1 a year, okay? So now any office visit is $49, okay? That's part of the magic of it. The other part is, in my waiting room, they were talking about price transparency. I have an old Sears podium sign, and that sign basically has all the prices for the practice listed. Small Band-Aid, $2. Large Band-Aid, $2.50. Just to give you an example what that can do. So after 9 years, I have 6,000 patients, okay? I have a waiting list. About 50% of my patients are insured, about 50% are insured. I have Medicare patients, Medicaid patients, Blue Cross patients, all types of patients. So you say, well, why would a patient with insurance or with Medicare come to your office? Because it's cheaper than using their Medicare. And let me give you an example of that. You know how some prescriptions now are $4? But if you use your insurance, it's $10? You guys notice that? Same thing in my office. I have patients that their out-of-pocket expenses are less, their quote-unquote copay is less just paying me cash than it would be if they used their Medicare and filed it. So last year, I saved Medicare $820,000 as a single physician because you know what? All those Medicare patients I saw, I didn't send Medicare a single bill. And those patients paid me cash, but the cash that they paid me for their visits was less than what they would have had to pay out of pocket had they used their Medicare. Astonishing. So where's all that money in between? I'll tell you guys, it's administrative waste. And what I found is that by cutting out the middle part of that administrative waste and getting rid of that, which is about $50 per patient visit, is what it costs to file insurance. By getting rid of that, I actually ended up doing better. Our practice is very financially successful. I only schedule one patient an hour. I leave the whole rest of the day, all those empty spots for patients to walk in, so that if somebody with severe hypertension all of a sudden is having, trouble breathing or something, they can just pop into my office and see me as a walk-in within 15 to 20 minutes because I'm not double booked all day, because I don't have to be. So I love practicing in this model. I have now helped about 25 practices all over the country, from Irvine, California to Philadelphia to Chicago, docs that would see a magazine article, or they would hear something I was on, or hear me on National Public Radio or somewhere else where we were talking about this. And they would say, Dr. Forrest, help me. I want to do what you're doing. I want to get back to my patients. I want to be able to spend time with them. And I said, sure. So they literally fly in from Irvine, California, and they come fly to Little Apex and spend a half day with me, and I show them how to do this. And I've helped show practices how to do that. And you say, well, the cost is less. What about the quality? So I'm going to tell you guys real quickly, because I'm going to keep the time brief here. But we started a new elective. I do a lot of teaching for UNC, teaching medical students. And started a new elective called New Models of Care. At their insistence, their department chair wanted us to do this. And we would take fourth-year medical students and put them in 10 different practices, high-end practices with mahogany checkout counters, granite floors, public health centers, all different settings. And we would put one student in my office. We've been doing that for 4 years, and we have the students audit the charts, audit the bills, and see what the cost is out of pocket, right? What you actually spend. What they found was basically this. For uninsured patients, patients saved about 89% over what they would have spent in a traditional office. Insured patients saved about 12% of what they would have spent had they gone in network. Medicare patients saved about 7.5% out of pocket over what they would have spent if they'd gone somewhere and used their Medicare. And yet, with all that decreased cost, what about the quality? Well, it's interesting. We started out with some of the sickest patients of the group. These were people, for the physicians in the room, we started out with systolic blood pressures in people who never had access to a physician of 214. My average incoming systolic pressure right now is 192. Hemoglobin A1C is coming in the door of 13, an average LDL cholesterol of 178. But I'll tell you what, the study says after 6 months in our practice, 91% of those patients, their blood pressure is where it's supposed to be. Our average LDL is 71. Our average hemoglobin A1C, again for the doctors in the room, is 6.3 now. And we have the fewest number of heart attacks, strokes, cardiovascular disease, and hospitalizations just about anywhere. In fact, we were just named one of 3 cardiovascular centers of excellence in the state of North Carolina. The other 2 is Carolina's Medical Center, their heart center, and also Wake Forest Hypertension Clinic. And we're the 3rd, and we're just a little podunk practice out in Apex. But nobody has strokes or heart attacks in our practice. I've been open 9 years with 6,000 patients and haven't had a single patient die of a heart attack. You guys think about that. That's real care. And it's really me in the room with the patient. And you know why it works? Because it's me